Everything has to start somewhere, and it's not until you tweak that thing and release it and see how it goes and then make changes again if you notice something that is there that you didn't like. It's a process, and it's not going to be perfect or what it's supposed to be like right away. Hey ladies, welcome to Speak Life Project with Lex. I'm so excited that you stopped in. And this is a place where we talk about all the things from daily life struggles to hard topics that no one wants to talk about. And we're going to dive right in. And so I wanted to take the time to share about how Speak Life, and if you haven't heard about the Joy Box, how it all came about. And I just wanted you to hear from my heart of how all of this kind of like transpired. And so 5 years ago, the Lord put on my heart when I was in prayer. I was like on Facebook and trying not to be distracted. You know how that goes. But it's funny because I feel like he took something that I was being distracted with and he turned it for good. And so I was scrolling through Facebook and I noticed that a lot of my friends and a lot of women that I knew from the past, they were having a hard time and they were voicing it on Facebook because, you know, throughout the years, there were like phases where everyone voices everything and all the things that's going on. And so they would sit there and just say, I'm stressed or I'm depressed or I'm this and I'm that. And someone in my family just committed suicide and all these different things. And it created like this heaviness on me. And that's when I was like, okay, Lord, like I want to do something about this. What can I do? How can I help in any way? And he just started to just download all kinds of ideas and painting this picture in my mind of what I could do. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to write this down. And whenever I get ideas, it's funny because I run straight to my husband and I'm like, Lance, oh my goodness, the Lord gave me all these ideas and this is what it is. And I just like say all the things. And he's like, whoa, where did this come from? But so I was like, okay, I'm going to write this down so I can remember. But there was one thing that was holding me back because at that time I was a great starter, but I never really finished projects that I started because I fell into the trap of being a perfectionist and perfectionism. And I'm like, if I don't have this equipment, if I don't have that look, if the box doesn't look right, or if the specific thing that God is downloading in my mind doesn't look like that here in the physical and the natural, then I'm not going to do it. And so I wrote the things down that the Lord was showing me, the ideas, and he asked me this question. He's like, when you are feeling lonely or you're feeling like no one even remembers that you're here, he said, who doesn't like to receive something in the mail to know that they're loved? And I was like, I like it. You're right. Because even, you know, as a society and as people nowadays, even when we get an Amazon package and it's something that we know that we ordered, I don't know about you, but for myself, I still get excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a box and I get to open it. And even though I know what it is, I'm still excited. And it's just like this mental thing for us that when we get a box that arrives to the house, there's like an excitement that takes place. So he showed me a box and he's like, I want you to create a box that encourages and empowers women. And so I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And so I was like, all right, I'm on it. I'm going to get right to it. So I started to order little things that he told me to put in there, which I'll show you here in a minute. And I created the first version of the box. And I say that because it wasn't what it is today right from the start. And so that I want to encourage you with that if there's a God idea that's in motion right now that you're working on and it's in the baby stages, like you just started, don't beat yourself up and don't give up because everything has to start somewhere. And it's not until you tweak that thing and release it and see how it goes and then make changes again if you notice something that is there that you didn't like. It's a process and it's not going to be perfect or what it's supposed to be like right away. It's going to be like a process that takes place, an evolving process to get to where that thing is supposed to be, to the vision that God showed you in the beginning. And so I had to learn that because that perfectionist thing that was in me that I had to purge was trying to stop me from getting this box out. That's why I said 5 years ago. And I released that probably 4 years, like a year ago from now. So it took me 4 years to finally release something that the Lord was showing me. And after I got the first version out, I made a list of girls that the Lord put on my heart. Some of them were family members, some of them were just some distant friends. And I was so nervous because I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know how they're going to react. What is it going to be like? Are they going to like it? It's like a piece of my heart. Even though it was a God idea, it's still me being vulnerable because it's my masterpiece. It's like my art, you know? It's like a piece of you that you're handing out, and struggling with rejection and that perfectionism. It literally was like sitting on pins and needles, knowing how their reaction was going to be. But I was like, okay, Lord, I want to be obedient. So I sent the boxes out probably, I want to say like 6 months after trying to tweak it and create the whole thing. And finally I sent them out. My cousin sent me a selfie back and she's like, oh my goodness, I love it. Thank you so much. The second box that I sent out, I don't even know if the girl ever got it. But it's funny because I sent it to a girl that I knew in high school that the Lord put on my heart. And when I sent it to her, she never said anything. And I found out later that she didn't even live in that area anymore. So whoever received that box, it was meant for them to receive because they never sent it back. And I know in the past, if something was sent to somebody and it wasn't the right address, they would like send it back to you. So I was like, okay, so Lord, whoever got that box needed it. And I did my due diligence and I stepped out and did what you told me to do. And so I'm good, right? And I even presented the box to a few people that were into like branding and marketing, and they were like up and coming. And my husband really pushed me with that because I was like, no, I don't want to show them. I know it's not where I want it to be yet, so I'm not going to show them. But I went and showed them the concept and they were like, oh my goodness, you're onto something. That's amazing. We can help you. But then right when I was trying to go with that specific brand and that company, we ended up having to up and move. The Lord had us up and move somewhere else. And so I'm like, Lord, why? I finally had someone that can help me with this and I didn't have to try to figure it out on my own. Why did that happen in that way? And he was like, because I want you're paving a way for something and I want you to be the one to pioneer it and do it. So I was like, okay. And I can't tell you how many times I wanted to give up. There were seasons that I did sit there and drop it and I didn't do anything with it. But then I always knew in the back of my mind, when you hear that saying that says, do the last thing that God has told you to do. And I knew it was this, but I'm like, I just don't know what it's supposed to look like. I just don't know how it's supposed to be. And I'm like, the way that it is now, I don't like it. So I'm not going to give it to people if I don't like it. And I'm just trying to explain the whole mindset behind it. And I almost made it more about me and what I thought than about the recipient, the person that was going to receive it on the other side. But that perfectionism was literally trying to block and stop this whole thing from going out. And so towards the end of the story with this, I walked through a healing journey and some deliverance and got some freedom in the area of perfectionism. That very thing was actually broken off because we were at a friend's house, a spiritual father's house, and we were like joking around. And he asked me at one point, because I said, oh, I'm a perfectionist. And I thought it was funny because you hear people say it all the time. Like for some reason, as people, we own that. We're like, yeah, I'm a perfectionist. And you're sitting there and you're speaking that thing over you over and over and over again. And I just didn't realize it. So I jokingly said it like I always do. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. And he starts laughing and he goes, so what do you think that is, a root or a symptom? And I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness, he's getting all deep. I didn't expect him to get this deep. And long story short, I realized that it was a root or it was a symptom of shame that I had no idea that I had. I didn't even really know what that meant. Like I heard shame. I know it had a little bit to do with hiding, but I had no idea how it pertained to me and how I had a lot of shame that I carried in my body, on my body, the way that I held and carried myself because of my past. So once he made me realize that and expose that in me, it opened up Pandora's box, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted to get free from that, because I'm like, if this is what's been holding me back, what's been causing me to delay from all kinds of things that I know that God is asking me to do, I want that thing off. So we ended up setting up an appointment. He walked me through some stuff and helped me unpack so much from my past. And it just started to flow out. I got some freedom, deliverance, didn't even know that I needed. And the more that I was vulnerable with the things that I felt that I kind of stuffed down deep down, the more that I dealt with it as it came to the surface, the more freedom took place and the more I felt unlocked. And I started to discover things in myself that I didn't even know was there, that was there the whole time. So I finally was at a point where I was healed from different wounds and stuff that was caused from childhood, different things that were trying to hold me back, like rejection and perfectionism. I noticed that I didn't have that anymore, where I was like, I don't care if it's not the best. I just want to be obedient, step out and get the thing done that God is asking me to do. And that doesn't mean that I didn't want it to be, because the word says that we should do things with excellence, as if God is right here, right now with us. We want to present everything out of a spirit of excellence. And so I'm not saying that I didn't have that spirit of excellence, but I didn't have that thing where it's like, if it's not perfect, then it's not going out. Because there's a difference between perfectionism and excellence. And so I was like, I am going to get the thing done, Lord. I want to be obedient to what you're saying. And sure enough, one day I went to go, so I started walking it out, even though I didn't have a full vision of what I wanted the box to be. I was literally all over the place. I'm like, oh, it could be this theme. It could be that theme. But the word says that faith without works is dead. And so if you're not stepping out, even when the specific thing that God told you to do, or that the promise you're standing on is not right there where you can see it, faith is doing it anyways. And so that's why it says faith without works is dead, because faith is requiring you to be in motion, to not just sitting there, but be in motion and doing the thing and working the thing that he's promising you. And so I'm like, I don't know what this looks like. I'm all over the place with all the different themes and all the ideas that I could do with this box. God, I'm going to go to Hobby Lobby and start finding some stickers and stuff that I think should go inside. And sure enough, literally, when I was walking in one of the aisles in Hobby Lobby, I remember it like it was yesterday. And this was probably like a year and a half ago. But I remember walking in the aisle where all the little scrapbook papers are, where you can just get like an individual paper with butterflies or something on it. And I saw butterflies, and the Lord dropped a word in my spirit, and he said metamorphosis. And I was like, I know what metamorphosis is from when I learned about it when I was a kid. And I know it has to do with butterflies. And I know that there's a process to get to that place of metamorphosis, when the butterfly flaps its wings and flies off and it's beautiful and it thrives. And I'm like, okay. So I literally up in Hobby Lobby started to research. I'm like, metamorphosis. He started to download this whole picture of butterflies and how it can relate to us as women, and how we all have a journey and a process that starts from that ugly little caterpillar, and how we have to get into that cocoon and into that place where we have to grow, and we have to feed ourselves, and we have to surround ourselves with people that are going to lift us up. Because when that day comes where we break out of that cocoon, we're going to be that beautiful butterfly that's thriving, that's eye-catching, for people to say, whoa, I remember you with that ugly butterfly or ugly caterpillar, and now look at you as that beautiful butterfly. And so I was like, okay, Lord. And it all clicked in my mind. 4 years later, it all just clicked in the aisle of Hobby Lobby, because of the things that were trying to stop me, the things that were polluting my wells got unclogged because I put the work in, and then the flow of the water just started to flow. And I started to partner with Holy Spirit on what to do and what to say. And so I went home and I worked on it for like a few months, and I was ready to release it. And so back in August of 2022 is when I actually stepped out and started this podcast and started Speak Life, and released the Joy Box not too long after that. And there was even people that started to, I would tell here and there. I didn't really advertise it that much. There were just a few people that it came up in conversation. Like, that's why if God is giving you something to do, you work that thing and work towards it and put it in motion, and he will take care of the rest. You don't even have to strive. You just thrive. You just glide. You don't have to try to make it work or force it to work. When it's a God thing, he's going to set up the steps to take and the people that are going to want it and the people that are going to reach out. And so I was in conversation with another spiritual father figure in my life with my husband at a table at a Mexican restaurant. And we were just talking about different things. And he asked me some questions if I knew how to prophesy. And all of a sudden, somehow, my husband mentioned the ministry, Speak Life, and the joy boxes that I've been working on. And he's like, interesting. And he just started to like prophesy over me about the things that the Lord was showing him from my life. And I just started to cry because it was confirmation. I didn't feel qualified to do this. I was like, Lord, why are you wanting me to do this? Why are you choosing me to speak? I don't want to speak. I don't want to do the things that you're asking me to do. That's like way out of my comfort zone. And I just don't want to do it. And there were times where I literally would throw a fit. I'm like, I don't want to do this. But then I'm like, but I have a fear of God and I want to do it because you're asking me to do it. But inside, deep inside, I don't feel qualified. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm doing. So when he prophesied to me that day, he prophesied words of life over me. He said things that I had never even really mentioned about my feelings, and that the Lord saw that and he qualifies me and all these different things. And it was so uplifting, so encouraging. And then he asked if I can make 40 or 50 of these boxes for his congregation at his church, for the women in his church. And I was like, what? I was like, are you serious? And like, I just had this sense of purpose and wow, I am qualified to do this, Lord. You're giving me the grace to get this done. And so I gathered up some of my girlfriends and we started to work on this, and it went smooth. We delivered the boxes. I didn't really hear about what happened after that. I wake up to a text and where he sent me a video of all the women that we made the boxes for. And they were holding it and they're like, thank you so much, Alexis. It touched our hearts. And I literally was like, wow, God, like, this is crazy. Little old me who didn't think that I had anything to give, to share, didn't even know or think that I was qualified. You used me as a vessel to get these boxes out to women that needed some encouragement, that needed uplifting, that needed to be empowered through your word and through declarations and through knowing that they're a woman of God, a child of God, a daughter of God, and they can walk in their identity in that. And so this whole thing was birthed. And then once that happened, I was like, God, I could do this and I'm going to do it. And so I started to release and get the word out about these joy boxes. And it's funny because it didn't go as I expected it to go at first when I released it. And the Lord said, but will you do it even if it just reaches the one? Because it's not about what the world deems as successful. It's about you being obedient to me and reaching the ones that need to receive this box. So I was like, ouch. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm not going to complain about it anymore, that my family and friends aren't supporting it. I'm just going to be obedient. You told me to do that. And now here's my yes. What do you want me to do next? And so it's just amazing on how I went from the concept that was birthed out of prayer, and then this whole long drawn out season of me picking it up, starting it, then dropping it, then picking up and starting it again, coming up with a different look of the box and what it should look like, and then dropping it, and then starting it up again. And after all those things were broken off of me, like the perfectionism and the fear, that's when I was able to fully thrive. So before I show you the box, I want to encourage you that if you're in a place where you know that God has given you some ideas and you can see the end of what it's supposed to look like, but you don't know the steps to take to get there. And maybe you feel stuck. If you feel stuck, I encourage you to ask the Lord to reveal areas in your life that are clogging you up, that are trying to delay you in the process. Because if there's any type of fear, if there's any type of perfectionism, if there's any type of hindrances in your life, those things need to be broken off for you to fully run with what God has given you. Because if not, then all the insecurities and the fear will cause you to overthink. And then next thing you know, you'll just sit on a God idea that was meant to be released for people to use that very thing that God has given you to do. And he wants you to do it to get the word out, to help unlock someone else's destiny. And so out of this whole joy box, a whole ministry was birthed, Speak Life Ministry, where we're able to speak words of encouragement, words of wisdom, words of empowerment over women to help them find their purpose and their voice. And now we're still in the process of creating a sisterhood where we're able to go from being encouraged to encourage one another so that they know that, hey, the enemy says that you're not qualified, but this is what God says. And if we can read about what God says and stand firm on his words, then you're going to start to see this woman that was intimidated, that had a muzzle on her voice, begin to metamorph into this beautiful butterfly that launches into the world and starts to help other women break off the muzzle off their voice and step into the destiny and calling that God has on your life and understanding who you are as a daughter. And so the whole vision of Speak Life is to create a safe place, a community of sisters, of women, of powerful women of God that says, hey, I have a past. I have things that I went through. I'm currently struggling with certain things. I don't know if I can get to where I know God has called me to be. I don't know if I could ever get to the place of feeling like I'm walking in my purpose. And I'm here to tell you that you can get to that place of knowing who you are as a daughter of God. You can get to that place of walking in your purpose, of breaking off old patterns, breaking off old cycles, stepping into your authority that God has given you, that you inherited when you accepted him in your life. Once you come to the realization of that, when you start to break off strongholds, break off old mindsets, be free and get delivered from past shame and past hurts and fear, when you start to work on those things, I'm telling you, you will thrive and you will bring others with you and you will help other people overcome. And then you will step into that woman of God and that leader that God has wanted you to be all along, all the things that you always had inside. But it starts off with faith, with working on the hard things, with going through a healing journey, breaking off the shame of the past. That's one of the biggest things that I hear from women is that they don't feel qualified. And so I'm a living, walking testimony that someone who didn't think that they were anything, I didn't think that I was enough. I felt so inadequate. And then God showed me a different story. He painted a different story in my mind. And through the help of others, I couldn't do it on my own. And so that's why I'm wanting to really create the sisterhood, because you can't do it on your own. It takes a community. It takes a group of people that you trust, that you surround yourself with to help you walk through that process, because we have blind spots and we can't always see those things on the other side. We can't see them, but others can see it. And when you surround yourself with people that you trust, that love you for you and want to see you do well, they're going to help you point those blind spots out of love. And so if we can create that, we can create the steps to take that's individual for you, because it's going to look different for everyone else. It's not going to be the same. The way that I did it is not going to be the same for you, because we're not the same person. We're each unique. God has created us different, unique, and you want to be an original, not a copy. And so once you start the healing process and you walk through the steps, I am telling you, you are going to thrive with purpose. You're going to walk in your purpose. You're going to have your voice. You're going to be able to raise up others that went through the same thing that you did and change the atmosphere, change the sphere of influence that he placed you in, just by starting off with breaking down the strongholds and the lies of the enemy. And so that's how all of this was birthed. And I wanted to share what's in these boxes. This box is an encouragement tool for you to either send to somebody that you want to encourage that maybe you haven't talked to in a while, or just someone that you do see all the time, but you're like, hey, I want to give you something to encourage you in your walk, or to, even if someone's not a Christian, you could still give them this box for encouragement. It's made for women to be empowered, to be encouraged, and to be uplifted in the day-to-day life. And or you can purchase one for yourself as well. I had some women that got one for them. And the cool thing is the boxes are customized for each person. We write out a prophetic word with your name and what your name meaning is. And then we write out a word that the Lord has placed on our heart for you. And so that's exciting as well, because when the person gets the box, they get excited because they're like, oh my goodness, I want to know what the Lord is saying to me to encourage me. So now that you know the vision of Speak Life and the heart behind it and how it was birthed, here is what the Joy Box looks like. And I wanted to put some pink on there, because women love pink on the low. And it's bright, it's cheery. When you see it, you're like, oh, that's cute. And then, like I mentioned, when you open it, you can see the metamorphosis theme of the box as a reminder for your life and how we're always growing. We always can get to that place of metamorphing into something that God is wanting us to be in the future, transformation. And so if you want to see more of the box, there's an unboxing video on social media, and you can purchase the box through the link that we post below. And I hope that this encouraged you, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.